These are my assembly instructions for, let me try to pronounce this, rhombicosidodecahedron. This is going to be my top shape, and this is going to be my bottom shape. And then I have 5 shapes with 2 squares and 3 tabs. And then I have 5 shapes with 2 tabs and 3 squares. I've just folded down on all the score lines for the squares and for the tabs. And then I have these triangular shapes, and I've just folded down on all 3 tabs for each one of these. I'm starting with my top shape, the only one that has 5 squares on the side of my pentagon shape. So I'm taking one of my yellow triangles, I'm putting glue on 2 of the tabs, and then I'm gluing one of my tabs right along the side of this square, and the other side is being glued onto the square that is adjacent to it, like so. So I'm just going to work my way around the perimeter of my shape and glue all 5 of my triangles in the exact same way. So next I'm taking one of my red pentagons and putting glue on the underside of it. And then I'm just gluing it on the very top of the piece that I've just assembled, like so. So next I'm working with the 5 pieces that have the 2 tabs and the 3 squares. So I've got one of the tabs at the top and one of the tabs on my right, and I'm putting glue all over the tab at the top. And I'm just sliding it under my piece and gluing it to one of my square pieces. So you have 5 to choose from, it doesn't really matter which one. And then I have this square that's to the left. I'm putting glue on the tab that's to the left, and I'm just gluing my blue square to my yellow tab. So next I'm taking another one of my 5 pieces with the 2 tabs, and I've got it in the same position as the previous one. I have one tab to my right and one tab at the top. I'm putting glue on the tab that's at the top, and then I'm moving on to the next square piece. So I'm gluing this square right along the score line for my tab. So then I'm working backwards a little bit here. I'm putting glue on both tabs that are to the left of the piece that I'm installing. So the edge of that square is right along the score line for my tab, and the top edge is right along my yellow triangle. So next I'm grabbing another one of my pieces and I'm holding it in that same position. So I've got the tab to the right and the tab at the top, putting glue all over that top tab, and I'm moving to the next square over. I'm gluing that top tab to the next square, and I'm keeping this piece over. So if it sticks underneath, it makes it a little bit harder to assemble. So just make sure that the square that's on the left-hand side is not under these tabs, it's over these tabs. So this is the piece I've just installed. I'm putting glue on both those tabs, and I'm just gluing the cut edge of my square to the score line of my tab, and just gluing the yellow tab to my square. I've got 2 more pieces. I'm doing the same thing, putting glue at the tab at the top. So I'm gluing in that top tab, and then going back to the tabs on the left-hand side of the piece I'm gluing in, and putting glue all over them, and then joining my piece to the tabs. And so for this row, this is the last one. I'm doing the exact same thing. So this time I want this tab to go underneath and this tab to go over as I'm putting it in place. So my tab goes under, but my square stays on top. So I'm putting glue on those tabs as I've been doing all along, and then just gluing my square to my tabs. And so now I still have that tab just to finish up my round. Maybe easier to do it from the inside. I'm folding the tab backwards and I'm covering it with glue. And then I'm going to flip my piece over again. I'm positioning the score line of my tab right along the cut edge of that square. So that's the top of it, and I have all these triangular shapes at the bottom. So I'm taking my yellow triangular piece, I'm putting glue on 2 tabs. So I'm gluing one side of this square to the tab, and then, so this is the top, I'm gluing that tab in, then I'm putting glue on that 3rd tab. So all 3 score lines follow the pattern of the triangle of those 3 squares. So I'm going to flip my piece to the next one and do the exact same thing. I'm gluing in the left side first, and then I'm gluing in the top, and then I'm putting glue on the 3rd tab and gluing it in. In a perfect world, these 2 squares would meet up perfectly at the tip of the triangle. So I'm just working my way around the shape, and I'm doing that for all 5 of those triangles. So next I'm taking 5 of my pentagon shapes, I'm putting glue on the underside of them, and I'm just gluing them onto the next layer. So this is the inside of my piece, and this is the exterior. So next we're moving on to the next row. I have a point here of my pentagon, and I have these triangular shapes at the bottom. So I'm just going to fill in those gaps with my triangular shapes, just as I did for the row before. In this case, I'm putting glue on 2 of the tabs, and then I'm just inserting them between my 2 blue squares. I want the score lines of those tabs to be right on the cut lines of those blue squares. So again, I'm working my way around my shape, just gluing those in. You've got these larger triangles in between. You're just leaving those alone. Make sure that you're putting these down in the narrower triangular shaped gaps. So I've done my next layer, the 5 yellow triangles. So next I have my bottom layer. So now I have my piece that has 3 tabs instead of 2. So I'm holding my piece so that I have a tab at the top, a tab on the right, and then a tab that's angled downwards. So I'm just putting glue on the tab that's at the top and the tab that's at the right. In between these 2 yellow triangles, I'm going to insert my piece so that the cut edge of my 2 tabs are right along the cut lines of those 2 squares. Now I could glue this one down right away. For now, I'm just going to leave it as it is. So I'm taking my next piece and I'm holding it the same way, putting glue on the top tab and the tab that's at the right. I'm inserting my piece. The score line of my 2 tabs is right along the cut edge of those 2 squares. And I've just shifted over 1 space from the one that I've just glued in, which leaves me with these 2 tabs. So I'm putting glue on those 2 tabs and then gluing that square down. I want the end of that square to be right at the score line, and I want the score line on my yellow piece to be right against that top edge of my square. The idea of gluing my red pentagons on as I finish a layer really helps me to find the direction. So if I didn't have them, it would be easy to get lost in my placement of my row. So this way I know that this is the top, this is the next row, and now I'm working on the 3rd one. Even if I put this down for a bit and come back to it later, I know that I was working on this row because there's no red pentagons on them yet. It's just a trick to make it a little bit easier to assemble. So I'm just continuing along. So there's a lot of repetition in the assembly of this one. It may look complicated, but really isn't. So I'm gluing in the next one, and I'm putting glue on the 2 tabs that are to the left of the piece that I'm gluing in. So I want that cut edge right against the tab, and the tab of my yellow triangle to go right against the top edge. So 2 more pieces left. And I've just glued in this one, so I'm moving over one and just gluing it to the 2 top like so. So this is the piece I've just glued in. I'm putting glue on the 2 tabs to the left of it and just gluing it down. So one more time. It's a little bit easier if your tabs go under and your flaps go over, even if those aren't the ones that you're gluing down at the time. So I'm gluing down those 2 tabs again. And then I've gone full circle. So I'm back to the beginning of that row, and I hadn't glued that one down. I was saving it so I could glue both tabs down all at once. So now I'm going to go and glue in those pentagons again. I'm just putting glue on the underside of them and gluing them to the matching shape. So now I'm looking at the last layer. So I have those triangular shapes again. I'm going to take my yellow pieces again. I'm putting glue on 2 of the tabs. I'm gluing in my top tab and my tab to the left. And then I'm putting glue on that 3rd tab, and I'm gluing the cut edge of my square right to that tab. So I'm just going to continue around and glue my remaining 5 triangles in the exact same way. And then I have my last piece. So there's a hole in my last piece, and the reason for that hole is to make it easier to glue down my tabs. So I'm putting glue on one of my tabs. I'm just installing it against one edge of my bottom opening, like so. So I'm pinching, adding a little bit of pressure to make sure that my glue takes. Then I'm putting glue on the 4 other tabs, and then I'm carefully tucking them inside, and then I'm just gluing in the remaining tabs. And then I have my final pentagon, and it gets glued on top of the opening. So I'm just putting glue all over the frame piece of my final pentagon, and then I'm just gluing that down. So there's my rhombicosidodecahedron, or a ball.